Okay, so we're coming up on the Coyote Springs Golf Course. I'm going to take it out of the autopilot, come around to the right, up the Sally Elbow. The hog flight in front of us has already made their right-hand turn. I'm just going to take it out here behind them if I can pick them up again. Yeah, I've got one of them up there just above the horizon. Yeah, there are both of them right there, about, I don't know, 5 miles out or so. Level out right here, I'm at 12,000 feet. Yeah, that's going to be just fine. I can start to descend once I come around to the left. So let me go ahead and bring the checklist up and go through the descent before landing. Actually, no, let's see here. Airborne, I've already got that initial approach. So, ILS power, I'm not going to use the ILS. I have already got the TACVIEW up. I'm on 12 X-ray and transmit receive. And, yeah, just coming over to the TACVIEW mode. Yeah, off to my left, 32.5 miles. So I've got that there as just a little backup. I'll go back to the steer point mode, and now I'm just getting steering cues and distances to the steer point. Nellis is actually right there where my cursor is. Okay, radio, A-10C call inbound. I'll get that here in just a second. I need to change the frequency to do that, but I'm not that close just yet. HUD, ensure nav mode, got it. Fuel quantity, check, and I've been looking at that. I've still got about 7,000 pounds, so no sweat at all for fuel. And then notify the flight you're on initial approach, and then the initial approach fix. Follow A-10C guidance unless we're doing a visual approach, which we are. Okay, so let's go ahead and get caught up here to see before landing. Altimeter. I'll get an altimeter call once we're a little bit further along, but I'm just going to take it as is. Eggy HARS compare. Let me go ahead and go to the HARS backup mode. And yeah, I've still got the good heading. I've got the good attitude indications. I'm going to go back to Eggy, and I'm going to rearm my EAC, and I'm going to re-engage. Well, maybe I'm glad that I did disengage just then. I was trimmed way nose up. I'll get the trim squared back away and re-engage the autopilot right there. But that's a good check of the backup system in case I do need to use it. Okay, canopy defog control is required, and this is stuff that I usually blow off. Let me actually go through this for once. So canopy defog is off, so that's exactly where I want it for our purposes. Windshield defog and de-ice switch, that's also over here on the ECS panel. It is off, which is again where I want it for our purposes. Speed brakes, I'm going to get that as we're on the approach. Anti-skid switch to anti-skid, that's good. Night vision light switch as required, that's actually over here, is it not? Where is the night vision switch? Night vision lighting switch, yeah, right there. I've got that off, which is exactly as I want it, as I need it. Okay, landing lights is required, and I've got my landing lights on, standing by for when I get my gear down. Fuel quantity, I was just looking at that, still looking pretty good. Okay, HUD, indicated airspeed, yep, that's good. NVGs, remove and stow, and then gear down once I'm actually set up on the approach. So, okay, I can stow the checklist until I'm ready to clear the runway, run through the after, the after clearing runway checks. So let me go ahead and start thinking about stuff that I can shut down. I can go ahead and turn the countermeasure system completely off. I can shut down the charting pod, that's no trouble at all. Let me see here. I love having this thing in the expanded mode, that's the way that I like to do it, but the only, I guess, drawback is that it doesn't follow you around, so I have to remember to come down here and periodically update the position that I'm looking at. So you can see right now, I never did get my own ship marker back up, but it's a left-hand turn, and then just recovery, straight into Nellis. And the reason that I still have the HUD indication, even though I have my charting pod off and I'm not tracking him, I've got that other aircraft hooked in the TAD, and also set up as my sensor point of interest. That's why I have the HUD indication telling me where that lead aircraft is, which is kind of nice. It's one of those things that you don't really think about too often, or I don't really think about too often, because I so very rarely fly as a wingman or fly coordinating with another flight. That's just not generally how a DCS mission is set up. But yeah, it's why I like missions like this. It gives me time to play with stuff and to do things that I wouldn't normally do. Okay, so I've got a little bit of ways to go here. Actually, let me go ahead and call A-10C. Let's go for 125. And VHF AM, A-10C, Nellis inbound. Okay, so that'll put us out there 112 for 19. pretty much on the exact spot we're going to fly to anyway, out there at apex. Let me go ahead and disengage the autopilot. Let me put it into the path hold. I was playing around with Alt heading hold. So I'll put it into path hold and get me on a little bit of a descent here. I'll also pull the throttle in just a little bit to maintain spacing with that flight in front of us. And that's going to do it. I'm not going to be using the ILS. I've got everything configured the way that I would like it for the approach. Okay, so my steer point that I have selected is the apex landmark. So I just want to hit this at about 4,500 feet and then turn right. And that'll put me lined up exactly on final for runway 21 right. So right about there. Okay, so I think this is set up at 4,500 feet for me already. If not, I'll just play it in real time. So let me engage the autopilot and path hold right there. I still got those two aircraft right out there in front of me, which is just fine. And I'll just continue to fly it inbound from here. And two, let me go UHF, go F11 to back out. Let's go wingman. Let's see here, navigation and RTB, F2. Okay, so two's on the way in. Where do I go to find to be on my CDU? So the altitude for this steer point is going to be at 8,000 feet. So what I want to do, that did look a little too high for my purposes. I'll bring the nose down and split the difference between the ground and that steer point marker in the HUD. Engage it in path hold right there, and that'll put me exactly between 4,000 and 4,500 feet, which is about where I want to be. Maybe a little touch above 4,500, no lower than 4,500. Because we have Nellis right out there in the distance and the Vegas skyline again. Okay, now approaching apex, the guys in front of me have turned right. I think. They're just sort of doing their own thing, I guess, out there. I'm going to turn right and probably end up cutting these guys off, so let me go ahead and go speed brakes out. And, of course, disengage the autopilot. I'm still clear of these guys, so I can just go ahead and bring it on around from here. Ended up at about 5,500 feet, sort of overshot that a little bit too high, but that's no sweat at all. I also overshot. I should have started the turn a little bit earlier than I did, but again, that's no problem at all. So I'm down through 200. Okay, now I've got good visual on those guys out there to my left. And this is going to work out just fine. Again, I'll just continue to let the nose drop on down. And I'll get gear and flaps as I come down through about 180. So let's go ahead and go gear down. And flaps full down. And once I'm lined back up on the runway, I will turn left slightly, and that'll put me right there on the approach. And again, on the approach, I'm just going to fly it so that the AOA indexer is just sort of solid with the two green lines right there, sort of erring on the side of too much speed. Whenever I see the two tick marks right up there, that means that I need to, what I do to correct that is just push the throttle up slightly. That's going to decrease the AOA on the aircraft and put me back onto the desired AOA angle of attack for the landing. And I'll just manipulate the trim to fly this as hands off as I possibly can. So just a little bit of left roll to the left trim, and then I just need to bring the throttle back in to get that velocity vector back down and to increase my AOA to put me back onto the proper spot. And from here it'll just be basic fly all the way to the end of the runway. And whenever I'm right here and I have everything trimmed out, if I see the velocity vector start to drop down on me, I just nudge the throttle back up to bring the velocity vector up. If I see it overshoot, I just and draw the throttle right on back. I'm just going to put the velocity vector right there, sort of at the end of the runway. I don't have to be too precise at this phase. I can correct a lot of stuff once I'm right there over the threshold, but I try to have it squared away now so that I don't have to think too much about it once I'm actually actively flying the aircraft and trying to set her down gently. Okay, one more little check. Yep, 3 green, gear down, flaps are down, speed brakes are out. I never did get the A-10C call to actually get landing clearance. That's weird, but I'm going to take it straight on in either case. Throttle up just a touch to cut into that descent. And I always bounce it a little bit. I always sort of underestimate how high I am. So let me go ahead and flare right here. I'll flare a little bit higher than I normally do in the A-10. Yeah, there we go. That's more like it right there. Okay, speed brakes full out. And just roll it on out. And yeah, plenty of runway remaining. 6,000 coming up. Yep, 6,000 coming up. And I'm not even going to have to get on the brakes. I'll just let it roll out from here. And as I come down through about 50 knots, I'm going to enable my nose wheel steering. I had a little bit of right rudder to maintain alignment, and when I enabled that, I should remember just to center up my rudder before engaging nose wheel steering so I don't get surprised. I mean, that wasn't bad. I waited. If I had done that at a higher speed, that might have sort of thrown me off course a little bit more than it did. Now, unlike last time, I'm going to pull my speed brakes in. I'm going to get my flaps up before coming off the runway, and it's going to be another left-hand turn, and then just parking back out there on the A-10 Lola. Okay, and it looks like we have the Springfield flights, the F-18s. They're going to be providing seed for us, suppression of enemy air defenses. We also have some F-16s also providing seed. But we are going to take her to the left. Okay, so coming past the bomber pad, about to turn right into the A-10 Lola. As, yeah, I thought I heard something. Got some F-15s landing out there to my left. And I guess I was off the other frequency there for a while. I'll go back to 124, and that'll allow me to listen in on these guys as they RTB. And I'll just take it straight up here, and I'll go back to my parking spot, which will be on the right side as we approach the facilities. So I'd be picking up my marshaller and trying to make this turn in the A-10. The A-10, from what I understand, is sort of notoriously finicky with the nose wheel steering system, so this might be one of those turns where an inexperienced pilot might have in the real world at least, might have a little trouble making. So yeah, I'll go ahead and blow off the rollover check. Okay, hold until chocks are engaged. And do we have, this was something that was in the L-39, did they possibly retrofit chocks? No, unfortunately, chocks are not an option. It was, I think, the L-39 and the MiG-21 C-101 has chocks available now, but maybe one day we'll get that on all aircraft. But yeah, for now we'll just exit that. So okay, standby ADI. Let me go ahead and cage it on up. So pull and then rotate. And go. Yep, verify master arm, gun pack, laser arm safe. I already got that a long time ago. Targeting pod off. Altitude source. I'll leave it in barrow. I'll go to HUD mode. I'll leave it in the day and the norm. And let's go Kiku, JTRS, IFFCC off, and acknowledge the master caution, although I should just, for all the master cautions I'm going to get, leave that off. Okay, Tizzle is off, seat full up, left throttle off after 5 minutes at idle. I'll consider that to be 5 minutes at idle, and I'll go ahead and go left throttle off. That works for me. And then once it spools on down, I'm going to, good enough. Let me go ahead and go right engine off, and I'll go ahead and let that bleed on down. So folks, I'm going to continue to clean things up here in the cockpit, come back in the next mission with mission number 3. That should be our first full up red flag combat mission. So we'll see how this goes. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.